Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf. It's the last day of the month, so it's time for the monthly tops and flops. If you're not familiar with this series, at the end of each month, I discuss the best and the worst books I've read in that particular month. So, tops and flops, here we go. As always, we start with the tops. I have three in that category and then two flops because, I want to indicate that the reading was basically good. Anyway, and as for the tops, as always, the first one is the best reread. If you're following my channel, then you know that 2019, one of my goals was to try and reread more. And for July, I reread Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time, the first book in her quintet of sci-fi children's books. Madeleine L'Engle, I think, especially the American viewers will know her. She was a mainly children and young adult fiction author. She died about 10 years ago. And Wrinkle in Time won the Newbery Medal, which is, the prize for children's books. Anyway, enough of that. The Wrinkle in Time. It's an adventure story where we have a family centering around the daughter, 12-year-old Meg, and her two twin brothers, but they don't play such a big role in the book, and the youngest brother, Charles, who is quite special. He's very intelligent and gifted, you might say, but he's also has some, I don't mean that in a bad way, but weird qualities. The father is missing. He was together with the mother. They are physicists and they were working on the project, and all of a sudden the father went missing. And then a neighbor comes along, Mrs. Whatsit, and the children, so Mac and Charles, and a friend, they go on this adventure to planets in order to save not only the father, but also the universe. What I really loved about this book, it's a children's book, so I'm not, the audience that it was written for, but I really liked the book, and especially because I thought the book was published in 1963, not sure whether I mentioned that already, but what I really liked is that this book doesn't think children are dumb. It discusses not only quite profound topics like time and physics, but it gives, quotations in Latin, which are then translated, of course, but it's not acting as if children couldn't grasp difficult things, and if they can't grasp it the first time, they will ask or they will look it up. So I really like that aspect of the book, that you treat children like intelligent human beings who are absolutely capable of understanding something difficult. So A Wrinkle in Time was definitely my favorite reread of July. On to the second book in the tops category, and that is the book that surprised me the most. And what I mean by that is, no, let me back up a little. I go into every book thinking, being positive, hoping that I will love it. So I'm not going to, start a book hate reading it right from the beginning. But there are many books, when I start them, I don't expect to love them. I'm interested for one reason or the other, but I go into the book with some sort of trepidation of, well, yeah, I'll try it, but will probably not like it very much. And the book in the most surprising category is always a book where I go into it with that feeling and I end up really, really liking it or loving it or enjoying it or thinking it's really good. And for July, that book was Sigrid Nunez, The Friend, published in 2018, and it won the National Book Award in that year. Sigrid Nunez is an American writer, and to my absolute shame, I had never heard of her. The book was first mentioned to me by Adam from Memento Mori of all people, who recommended it to me because he thought I might like it. And I saved it and forgot about it. And then it was re-mentioned, I think it was by Jacqueline from 6 Minutes for Me, but I'm not 100% sure. And then I thought, well, come on now, finally. So I read it and I really loved it. The book is written from the perspective of a woman who had just lost one of her best friends, lifelong friends of multiple decades, to suicide. They're both writers, the woman and her friend, and the book is a reflection on their friendship. We learn more about this mentor figure. He was older than the woman who tells the story, the various affairs he had, his marriages, he had 3. So the book is about that friendship and the grief that followed the death of her best friend. Why I was hesitant of liking the book is the other main character in the book is a dog, a great Dane called Apollo. He was the dead friend's dog, and the woman telling the story is ending up taking care of this dog. So the book is also marketed as a book about the friendship between a human and a dog. And that's not my thing. I mean, I love dogs, but it's just that theme, that topic never really appealed to me. And that was the big surprise, that I ended up loving this book. Mainly also because the friendship between the woman and the dog was part of it, but it was much broader than that. The discussion of friendship and writing, there's a lot of discussion of writing in the book, which I absolutely loved and adored. So the marketing with the dog, I mean, the big Dane is on the cover. So I think that would put me off. But anyway, I really loved it. And if you are into a quite slow, quiet book about a friendship and also about a dog, then I can certainly recommend The Friend by Sigrid Nunes. The last book in the tops category is the book that I thought about the most. And if you by any chance watched my BookTube prize video from last Sunday, you will know that what I look for in a book is that it makes me think. That after I finish it and I close it, I still keep thinking about the topic or the theme or the story. That is what makes a book really, really good for me. And in July, the book that I thought about the most was Putney, a novel by Sofka Zinoviev, published last year. I hadn't heard of Sofka Zinoviev, even though she's a London-based author, even though she has published previous books. And I was alerted to this particular book by Jacqueline from 6 Minutes for Me, who really loved it. The book is about a quote-unquote relationship between a man in his late 20s, early 30s, and a child, a girl from between 9 and 15. Ralph meets Daphne when she is 9 and is enthralled. They start a relationship when Daphne is about 12, and they have sex for the first time when Daphne is around 13. That carries on until Daphne is about 15, and then Ralph leaves from the UK to the US, and the relationship stops. The book is told from 3 perspectives: Ralph's perspective, Daphne's perspective, and Jane's perspective, Jane being one of Daphne's best friends when they were children. And it switches in time from the present day, when Ralph is he's a successful composer and he's in his 70s, dying from cancer. So it's almost 40 years after the events when Daphne was a child. And then it switches to the earlier years when Daphne was 9 when they first met, until she was 15 when he left. And through these switches in perspective and switches in time, we get the picture of how Ralph, quote unquote, seduced Daphne, and we the reader are told to ask the question, why was this wrong? Because there was no violence involved. That it's criminal, statutory rape, no doubt. But Daphne, at the time, always said she was in love with Ralph. She wanted it. She wanted to have sex with him. She wanted this relationship. So why is it then still wrong? And that's the central question of the book. A question that all three protagonists struggle with. Daphne in particular, because she only realizes how wrong it was what Ralph did 40 years later, so in the present. And Ralph, he never really realizes that it was wrong. Maybe a little bit. So that central question, the question about grooming, that you can have a non-violent sexual relationship between an adult and a child, and it's still wrong. But why? So I thought that was extremely well done. It was well developed. It was really nuanced without any, sort of minimizing the damage that happened, but still gave various perspectives. And that made me think, and I'm still thinking about it. So if that theme appeals to you, I would certainly recommend Patni by Sofka Zinoviev. Those were my three tops, and now on to the two flops. And the first one is the book that disappointed me the most, and without any doubt, this is Lisa Taddeo's nonfiction book, Three Women, which was published earlier this month. I had really high expectations for this book. I showed it in one of my to-be-released videos, because the premise of the book is that it's about female desire. Lisa Taddeo is an American journalist, and she followed three women, Lena, Maggie, and Sloane, over the course of 8 years to document their desires and their sex lives. The book discusses sex in detail. It's very open, not very well written, but okay. So I thought, when I read about that, I thought that's really intriguing. There are not many books, at least not to my knowledge, dealing with female desire and the female sex life. The problem with the book is that it's not about female desire at all. It's about three women who grapple with male desire, with the men in their lives who have certain urges and certain sexual desires, and they accommodate it. That's what the book is about. So I first thought, well, maybe it's just a marketing problem. You know, sometimes books are marketed in a certain way. That can happen. So I watched interviews with the author, with Lisa Taddeo, how she talks about the book. And she talks about the book in the same terms, that it's about passion, about how passion crosses state lines, as it were, because the women live in different states, and age lines. I mean, all the women are white and middle-aged and educated, so, but that's fine. It could be a book about desire of these three women, but it's not. So it was not a marketing problem. Lisa Taddeo's view of the book is reflected correctly in the marketing, that it would be a book about female desire, which it is not. And I think the most disappointing part was that Taddeo obviously didn't even realize it, that she wrote a book from the female perspective, but about male desire and how women grapple with that. You know, Lena is in a marriage without passion. Her husband doesn't want a tongue kiss, and how should she deal with that? Maggie had a relationship with a teacher when she was 17. Sloane's husband wants to watch her having sex with other men. So there are different, issues about certain desires, but it's the male desire that is central in the book, not the female desire. So this was really a huge disappointment. A book about female desire would have been great, but it's not. And then the last book, the second one in my flops, is the book that irked me the most. This is a booktube darling, and many have loved it. Helen McDonald's H is for Hog, a memoir published in 2014. Helen McDonald is based in the UK, and she has been a falconer all her life. And when her father suddenly dies, she tries to grapple with her grief by training a goshawk. I had to look up the different hawks and what that means, but this is obviously the most difficult bird to falcon, if that is the verb at all, because it is so wild and ferocious. And anyway, first of all, I thought the book was really badly written, but that is my personal taste. I don't like the accumulation of adverbs and adjectives. I mean, if you use one, okay, but the author seemed to think in almost every sentence, why use one when I can add 4 more? That's not my style, but that's not why the book irked me. The book irked me because I can't stand the idea that you would have pleasure in training a wild animal, a bird in this case, just for your own satisfaction. Why would you want to do that in the first place? So, because the book is mainly dealing with falconry and how Helen McDonald started it when she was a child and she was preoccupied with birds, which is fine, but then go bird watching. Watch them in the wild. It really makes me, I can't stand it. And it's never questioned in the book why it would be okay, whereas to me it seems archaic and cruel to do that to an animal. Why you would have satisfaction once the animal is sort of domesticated and hops about in your living room. I mean, like I said, many of you and many on Goodreads and many other readers, they just love this book as a grief memoir. But I couldn't get myself beyond the absolute anger that I felt and the pity I had for those poor animals. So, sorry to tell you, but H is for Hawk was the book that really irked me in July. Anyway, those were my July tops and flops. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Looking forward to your comments. If you've read any of the books, let me know what you thought of them. And I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye-bye.